that.
But women apparently get a pass because you never said anything about my haircut. Mike said to me on Facebook the day before, I said, I got a haircut. Mike, he goes, let's see if Jannelle even notices. Ha ha. I said, she won't. She didn't. Your response.
I'm sorry, Brian. You look so handsome with your haircut.
Did you watch that? Okay. Now, if you were my kid, I'd be like, say it like you mean it.
I'm so sorry.
See, now you're just playing a game. Look at her. Wow. When you have a new blouse or you do your hair different, I say something. Don't I?
Yes, you do. I'm focused
Am I even your friend?
Thinking and concepts
Am
and
I even
the
your
show.
friend?
Wow, Brian, you're
Wow.
very needy.
You just figured this out? We've been working together for like 2 years.
Oh, my goodness.
You always said to me, I feel so bad for Sarah. You're so needy. You're so needy.
You said she says that too?
She loves me.
No, but she says you're needy
She
too.
loves me.
We just got corrected again, by the way. It's Follow-Up Friday.
You
Yeah.
got corrected.
Oh, dang.
I obviously got a haircut. I'm looking at myself in this thing. A beard trim and everything.
Wow, Brian. Like, how about Follow-Up Friday?
Kelly noticed.
I did.
Brian, oh my goodness, we
I
talked
always
about
notice.
this yesterday.
No, we started to, and then we got cut off. That's what happened.
Goodness
Oh,
gracious.
Wow.
So, we were talking about a conversation we had a couple of weeks ago. Oh, wow. It's a lot, guys. Okay. Hello, Sandy. Hi, Callie. She says TGIF. Joe says, good morning, team. Damaris says, saludos, Jannelle. Hola, Damaris.
Isn't that like salutations?
No, saludos. It says hello. That's very cool.
That's hola.
Okay, Gary, hashtag Team Brian says, good morning, WCRF family. Love your Friday morning closing song. Oh, yeah, it is
Thanks,
awesome.
Gary. It's our favorite, too.
Callie likes your haircut. Gary says, shame on Jannelle.
Exactly. Gary, when she comes in here and she's straightening her hair, I walk in the studio and go, oh, look at your hair. It looks so nice. Tell me about the story of that. Or,
Oh, my gosh.
Is that a new... No, because then you tell me about, I'd sit under the hairdryer for 3 hours and all that stuff. I noticed the blouse when she wore it. I'll be like, oh, is that a new shirt? Because that is a new shirt. And it looks very nice.
Oh, my gosh.
Isn't it a new shirt?
Yeah, well, I wore it already. But, yes. Mike says, Jannelle has priorities. That's right, Mike.
Clearly, I'm not a priority for you.
Actually, it's funny because Mike is nicer than you. He actually contacted me after the show and was like, oh my goodness, I didn't know Brian was going to do that. I didn't know if you took it okay. Like, are you good? I'm your friend. Thank you, Mike. You're so awesome. Thank you. Thinking about your neighbor.
Sounds like you're nicer to Mike than you are to me.
Tina says, good morning, all. And Jannelle should recognize when Brian gets a fresh cut. Sensitive subject, but a great topic.
Did you hear that? Listen to her.
Okay, I will.
Be my friend, would you?
Janet, hashtag Team Brian says, Brian, say, Jannelle, I'm very thankful to work with you. Thank you. Exactly.
We're back to that, Janet. Do I have to be thankful to work with her, even though she doesn't even notice?
You trimmed your beard.
Yeah, I did. That was
Good
part of the
job.
haircut. It's hair.
Sandy says she noticed, so thank you, Sandy, for helping me.
Wow.
I have priorities. Thank you, Mike. Sandy says, I sometimes go a couple days before noticing that my husband got a haircut. Thank you, Sandy.
So then,
Thank you.
So then here's the answer.
Our
Here's the
brain
question.
is somewhere else.
No, the question on this becomes, does this mean that women need to pay better attention, or that men get a pass and they don't notice their wife changing something?
Oh, my goodness.
That's what she says when she doesn't want to answer the question. Huh?
Okay. Can we move on
You
to
didn't notice
important
my
topics?
hair? You didn't notice that?
You're super needy. Gary says, Mike isn't going to Jannelle's side, is he?
I wish you could see Kelly laughing because my point is well taken. She won't concede it.
Oh, man.
Right. You want to go to the topic, the more serious topic? Wow. So Bob from Pregnancy Center has a message for us, but you got to reset the topic. We were talking. Go ahead.
So finally, somebody was willing to say it because she's intimidating. I mean, she doesn't notice haircuts. She doesn't notice things. She's all about herself. Just kidding. That's not true about Jannelle. I can't even go that far.
Wow.
So we were talking a couple weeks ago about abortion. And I was mentioning that there was a Louisiana law that was requiring admitting rights for abortion providers into local hospitals to be able to perform an abortion. And the Supreme Court struck down that law, even though the majority of the justices are ideologically conservative. And that was yet another blow to the issue of preserving human life in the womb, right? And God's love for unborn children. Tied to that, there was a study of people's view on abortion, and the vast majority of the American public supports it at this point. And so, that being the case, our discussion was, if our goal is to save babies, is it time to admit the strategy's not working? We're trying to change laws, and we can't even do that. So, not that we stop trying to make legislative changes, but do we have to reshift our focus? And Jannelle's point, larger point, was maybe we need to care more about the mothers, in the sense of like, we aren't caring enough now, so we should care more about them.
Yeah.
In the future, to help the cause.
Yeah, help the cause, help the message get across, because I think if you don't show that to the mom, whatever you say, they're not going to receive it, because you look like you don't care.
And so Arthur said, Jannelle, help me clarify this. It was very good that he said it this way.
Yes, he did say nice.
He's like, are you trying to say that we need to care about the mother more than the baby? And Jannelle was not making that assertion.
No, I said we need to care more about the mom, because I feel like we don't care enough. So my point is we should care equally, because the Lord cares equally for both. The baby is vulnerable. We talked about that, even physiologically vulnerable. But the woman in God's eyes is vulnerable in other ways, in other areas that we can care for.
So that being said, Arthur's point was actually, and he made a lot of supporting evidence for this in his assertions, that we should care more about the baby than the mother. Because the mother sinned, she had sex, succumbed to temptation, and sorry, you made a bad choice.
Yeah, and should accept the results of your sin, or And
since she sinned in that way, we ought to give priority to the baby and have more importance than the mother. And Jannelle and I were not willing to go that far for a lot of reasons we can get into if you want. I think the biggest one of which would be the story of the woman caught in adultery.
Yeah.
Where she's literally caught in the act of having sex with someone that's not her husband, dragged in front of Jesus and a bunch of dudes holding stones, and they were like, Jesus, what do you want us to do? You want us to kill her? Because they could have, and it would have been a legal punishment. And he said, how about those of you that don't have any sin, you throw the first one. Go ahead, start throwing.
Yeah.
And they all left. And he said, go and sin no more. So he showed compassion to an adulterous woman.
Right.
It doesn't sound compassionate to me to say, well, you had sex, so sorry.
That's what you get. That's the result. So while we were talking about it, somebody texted and said, if the mother can't take care of, murder's never an option. If the mother can't take care of the baby, there are a lot of choices, including, and while we read it, we said giving the baby up for adoption. Bob from Pregnancy Resource Center, which we love and respect, messaged us and said, sorry I missed this conversation. I think it's important the language we use talking about adoption. We don't give babies up. We make a life plan for them.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is important that matters, how you express it.
Yeah, because giving up your baby is derogatory towards the mother.
It is.
A life plan is saying, let's work with you to get the best for your child.
But one of the things, we talked about it years ago, Scott was still here, and I am open for correction. You like the hi, te gusta. Oh, is it bad that I think that, although I celebrate adoption, I love adoption, that the church moves too quickly into telling the woman, that's an option. Make a life plan, and I'll choose. Like, most women don't want to do that, and their present circumstances makes them do that, right? Because you want better, you love your child, you want better. But if we were quicker to, let's find a way to help you stay with your child, right? Well, yeah, I don't know if I'm expressing this right.
I think what you're trying to say is
adoption's good.
From what we hear from pregnancy centers, most women who are considering adoption, abortion, it's an emotionally agonizing decision they don't want to do, but they feel they have no choice.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is that shouldn't we view, for lack of a better phrase, even though Bob corrected us, giving up your child for adoption as the same kind of emotional filled decision. You don't want to do this per se, but you feel like you have no choice and it's the best thing for the child.
Right. And so if you love the baby, because you see people that live with that decision, although you can have an awesome family, adopted family, the ideal is for the baby and the birth mom to be together. And so if it's in my hands, shouldn't I try to help in that gap, in the 2-3 years, whatever it takes, to make that happen? And I think the church and believers move too quickly to the adoption side.
Well, yeah, because how do you not have a bond with a child when it's growing inside of you for 9 months?
Yeah.
And then you physically give birth to it.
Yeah.
And hold it.
Judy says adoption is good, but it leaves scars not only on the mother but on the child. If possible, they should be kept together. Charles says, what if having the baby will kill the mother? Arthur, when he wrote his email, did make exceptions. He said he was specifically talking about women that choose the sin that got them the baby. So sex outside of marriage, etc. First of all, let us remember that many women who are committing, who are considering abortion, can be within a marriage. I mean, we're assuming it's the teen girl. A lot of it is adult women. We're also making assumptions. Like, how do I know when I approach a woman and I talk to her about the abortion she's considering? What got her there? Was it like, oh, you were just having fun and got pregnant? I don't know that. I don't know if the minute or day after she did that, what her stance is with the Lord and her repentance. So I think the tone in which we talk to women about is set by the assumptions we have. We talked about that one time.
Yep.
Remember when you said even those who consider abortion and who think abortion is okay, understand it's a really tough choice. Like they don't take it lightly. Remember that conversation?
Yeah.
And I think we assume otherwise. Nathaniel says, good morning. Nathaniel loves you, by the way.
What's up, Nathaniel?
Sandy says, it's not always single mothers who come to the pro-life pregnancy centers. Many economically stressed couples find themselves struggling with a new pregnancy. Our local center offers counseling, Bible studies, as well as necessary supplies.
That's exactly right, Sandy. And that's why, isn't it interesting how often there's a disconnect between the real work of a pregnancy center and the ideological work against abortion?
Yes.
It's like they're not connecting with each other.
They're not.
Because the more you interact with the pregnancy center, the more you're hearing this holistic, God, Christ-like focus on the whole complexity of the situation and loving everybody involved in it.
I cheer for them, and I wish that their voices were louder in the marketplace. When I used to volunteer for Alternaterm, the environment was very much about the mom. Like when we would sit in that room and it was the volunteer and the mom, it was about loving her and listening to her. There were parenting classes, there were resources. That's what I'm talking about. It's not justifying or saying, oh, we don't care about the baby, we care more about the mom. It's that holistic.
Oh, Bob's here.
Yeah. He says there are still some women that are married in their 20s.
Yeah, and Bob, I love your language you gave us in a text message about it's not giving up for adoption, it's creating a life plan, a plan for their life. It's beautiful stuff. Anita liked that too.
Oh, go ahead.
You're going to skip over the haircut comment?
No, we're done with your haircut.
We're not. Right there, Carlton.
Kathy.
No, Carlton, at the top. He pops in, says good morning. What does he say right away, Jannelle?
I like your haircut. I like your haircut.
That's not what he said. Quote
You have a nice haircut.
It's not what he said. Wow, you're going to misquote people?
Hi, Sherry. Hi, Charles. Not so rare in the Black community. Oh, my goodness gracious.
Go ahead. Go get your serious business done.
Judy says adoption is... Oh, wait. I read that. Sandy says it's not always a single mom. Did I say that? Yes, I said that. Rachel says, yes, Jannelle. Come alongside them and pledge support. Judy says adoption's good. Wait, what am I doing?
You're just trying not to read Carlton.
Oh my gosh.
His comments about my haircut.
Rachel agrees with me. I love those. Thank you, y'all. Janet says, I have always thought the law will not change the heart. The heart has to change so people don't use abortion as birth control. I wish every church would work with some community partners to help the moms.
That one drives me nuts. There are people who truly believe that if we could just overturn Roe v. Wade, we'd stop abortion. And that idea is just as foolish as thinking that the day that President Lyndon Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act, racism ended.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, we're not going to erase the problem of abortion. And it's not that I'm trying to say give up on Roe v. Wade. What I'm saying is that can't be the only front you're fighting the war.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's really about changing hearts, and the law is not going to change the heart.
And like you said, we're talking, some of these women don't even believe that life starts at conception. So to not address that and change the law, you're still dealing with people that view that essential part differently. Stacy says, Brian, we knew about your haircut and fresh teeth yesterday. Fresh teeth. Go ahead, talk about the dentist.
No, Stacy, good point. I'm glad. It's just Jannelle spent the morning looking at me. You just listened to me, and she didn't notice. And I need her to care about me. Okay. If we're friends.
So Charles talked about, we got this tough topic.
Look at her.
Charles,
you see that face she made?
Charles talks about something that's not rare in the Black community, he mentions later, and says, what if having the baby will kill the mother? And then somebody brought up ectopic pregnancies. Arthur made that exception, by the way. And Charles continues, it says it could be cancer, it could be blood issues with the mom. She could have been told by her doctor not to get pregnant, and her husband has to make a difficult decision.
Yeah, someday I'll tell the story. But Sarah had an ectopic pregnancy that almost killed her. And were it not for God's intervention, she would be dead. I'll tell the story at some point. It takes a minute, and it's never the right time. But let me just tell you that is the kind of abortion that Christians don't want to talk about or confront.
Yeah.
Because the only choice you have, it's actually a terrible choice. Do nothing and let the mom and the baby die.
Yeah.
Or kill the baby.
And Sandy says an ectopic tubal pregnancy has no chance of coming to term. That will kill the mother with no chance of producing a baby.
Yeah, and people don't know about that until it hits them. But let me just tell you, one of my experiences after Sarah's near death with an ectopic pregnancy was Christians coming to me in my office in Chicago, tiptoeing in, looking around, close the door, and whisper about their ectopic experience. They're too afraid to talk about it in front of Christians because they're fearful of judgment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the treatment is terminating the pregnancy. And again, I'm not going to tell you what Sarah and I did. That's for a different day when I'm in the mood to share something like that.
Yeah.
But it's important to know that.
Nathaniel says, we here in our area raise funds for Pure Gift of God, an adoption program by running in Columbus Marathon and half a marathon and raising money. It's a great adoption program. Judy says that she had 2 tubal pregnancies. It broke her heart. That is very tough.
Yeah, they're really heartbreaking, really traumatic. And that's where life of the mother is a thing.
Yeah.
And Christians have to acknowledge that, or we look really callous and totally uneducated about what an ectopic pregnancy truly is.
Yeah. Janet says, so sorry to hear about this. So what do you, do you think it would help to include in our conversations as believers, the dad? That's not included enough. I hear the mom a lot. When there is judgment, it's about the mom and her choice. And I know that the mom is saying it's her body. Not every mom is doing that. We mentioned statistics a few weeks ago about how a lot of them in the moment find themselves alone, making such a tough decision. So in that moment, all of that, do you think that would push our agenda as well?
It's too easy for men to just get out of it. Like, idealistically, I think we should have the men feeling just as much weight and responsibility and society blaming them for it in the same way they blame women. But tragically, this is not going to happen because of the way God designed the way babies are cared. Men can get away with it.
Yeah.
And move on and be unaffected. I'm not saying emotionally unaffected. I'm just saying you're carrying a baby, we can hide it.
Yeah.
A guy can just, oh, you're pregnant? Sorry, I'm out of here.
somebody shared earlier. Let me get to Rachel. Rachel says, I know that what I'm going to say can be misunderstood and misconstrued. But having worked with young children a good majority of my working experience, I have to say that I'm disappointed, or maybe I should say I have began to question the sincerity and validity of many who cry loudly against abortion. I have seen where after the child is born and is here, and there's no support or follow-up. I have seen sad little kids and moms on the edge. I've wondered, where are those who championed loudly to have the kid? That's exactly what I'm saying. And we don't look pro-life. The world even, like I've heard secular people who I'm thinking, man, if anybody's going to talk about pro-life and its true meaning, it should be us. And the way they talk about it, it's like, whoa, we're not showing the real meaning, biblical meaning of pro-life, which is from the womb, of course, because it starts at conception. We're big about that, but we get stuck there.
Do you know why?
To the grave. And a lot of us are like all about the womb and all about the grave. But what about the in-between?
You know, I know why.
Why?
Politics.
What do you mean? Explain.
Because it would violate someone's political ideology to perhaps act radically biblically. As in, if truly we're caring about mothers, right, and young babies in the way that Rachel described, one of the solutions for that is excessively generous societal support for women and children. I mean, through elementary school? I'm talking like WIC, women, like expanding WIC and the government expense for it because church isn't doing anything, and you could say they should, but they're not doing it.
Childcare so she can work.
Like in terms of societal support financially for those women. But ideologically, usually those who oppose abortion also oppose raising taxes.
Yes. Yeah.
And it would cost a significant tax increase to truly show pro-life support for a mother and child. And so what you have is people who are inconsistent in the application of their biblical ideology because they won't let go of their political ideology.
Wow.
And someone's going to get mad at me for that.
And is it true, the thing about big government, those who are against abortion don't want big government involved in caring for those who are struggling financially? Which brings up another thing. You said politics. What about vulnerability? Like, especially Arthur's tone was, the baby's vulnerable. The elderly or the person that's end of life is vulnerable. If you're in between, you got 2 hands, 2 feet, you can work. Is that the thinking behind that? Like, you're not vulnerable. If you can't feed your baby, go get a job.
It's a narrow view of vulnerability. Yeah.
So how do you line that up with what the Bible says? If you don't work, you don't eat. So
because that's a misapplication of that passage. People love doing that, but that passage is talking about people serving in ministry, and if you're going to be taking money from the church, you need to be working.
Yeah.
It's not a commentary on social welfare. And so I think we have a very narrow view of vulnerability. Vulnerability isn't just physiological, as in bordering on the ridiculous. You cut off my arms and my legs, I'm totally helpless.
Yeah.
I'm totally physically vulnerable. But what is economic vulnerability? What's emotional vulnerability? What's spiritual vulnerability? There's different types of vulnerability that may not be completely equivalent to a baby who can't defend itself, but is still a significant measure of vulnerability. And that's what Rachel was talking about. Rachel was talking about a mother who can barely hold it together emotionally, economically, spiritually, physically, is unable to provide appropriately for her child, and therefore both the mother and the child become super vulnerable and emotionally distraught. That's what she's trying to say, is that's a different kind of vulnerability.
See, Judy says pro-life must include the mom and the care for the child. It must continue through a lifetime. Rachel says, yes, exactly, Jannelle, you said it. We get stuck. God help us. And I think it's what you're saying. We're getting lost in our politics and forgetting about the priority of Scripture. Charles says, yes, Brian, say it. Pseudo-Christian politicians.
Yeah, and that makes me very unpopular sometimes, because now somebody will say, in fact, no, in this discussion I don't get those accusations because I'm unashamedly pro-life.
Yeah.
So what do you do with a guy who's unashamedly pro-life, but wants to be excessively generous to the economically vulnerable. Those are politically contradictory. They don't fit anywhere. And I think that's how Christians should be. We shouldn't fit anywhere politically, perfectly at least. We shouldn't be easy to put in a political box. That's Romans 12 too. That's letting God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. You're thinking out of conform to Scripture, not to a political ideology.
Tina on YouTube says, Brian, you hit the nail on the head. Woo! Aaron says, oh, well worded, Brian. Spitting fire. You're a dragon. Woo!
I'm a dragon!
Judy says, it infuriates me to see how many people who claim to follow Christ do not want to help after the birth and do not want to offer a hand up to those who struggle financially or are born into a home where abuse or there's addiction. Sandy says, regarding rape, as a horrible thing that it is and awful as it would be to be reminded of it all those 9 months and beyond, we must remember that God is in the business of redeeming horrible situations. Is he big enough to bring us through it, surviving and stronger and bring good out of the horrible?
Yeah.
That's where pro-life care and support becomes vital.
Absolutely.
I wanted to mention somebody said, there's a text I really liked, and it said, it was talking about,
something good?
No, it was talking about how there are people who would who would get the abortion because they don't then want to sit in church. Like the young moms who then don't want to sit in church.
Because they're fearful
pregnant.
of the strict rebuke from Christians.
Right. And so in caring for the mom, you talked about this in the conversation 2 weeks ago. It starts before the situation even comes up, before pregnancy. So it's their understanding, number one, of the gospel, people's understanding of when life begins. You know, because a lot of times we're asking the world to follow Christian beliefs and Christian rules. And like, how about we focus on making them believers? They're acting like they should, which is they're being the world. But then also checking our judgment. You don't know who's in your conversation. And there are a whole lot of people, whether you're at home or at church, that condemn the teen mom or the the woman out of wedlock, having sex out of wedlock, or people living together, whatever it is, and people are listening. So you could be the one that the person would say, what if so-and-so knows I'm pregnant? And then I'll be judged and I'll be condemned and can entertain abortion. So I think our tone has to change towards certain, like how selective we are with sins, or like you said, if you're mindful of your own sin, it's easy to talk with grace about anybody that's in a sinful situation.
Yeah, and that's, as you pointed out, that's why we have to reclaim that phrase and twist it. And here's what it is. It's not love the sinner, hate the sin. It's love the sinner, hate your own sin.
Mm-hmm.
Love the sinner, hate your own sin.
That's right.
We're just about out of time here, but let me say this. A lot of you are agreeing and saying, oh, this is great, I love what you're saying. If you like it so much, why don't you share it? Right?
That's right.
Hit share. You can just click on the, where are the buttons compared to where I am?
The buttons, hold up. So, wait, I'm right here.
Well, if you're on your phone.
Click share if you're on Facebook. It's right there. I look like one of our kids' influencers. Right there, y'all. So now you do YouTube.
But if you're on a phone, though.
Oh, well, yeah.
It'd be like right here.
Good job. That's right. Now do YouTube. Same thing.
What's up, yo? Click subscribe. Hit the bell.
Get our merch.
Lots of merch.
I thought you were also going to say, if you love what we're saying, people are doing it. It's happening. It's been happening for decades. So, like, call up Pregnancy Resource Center in Cleveland or Alternaterm, which has a different name now, and support those who are doing exactly what we're talking about. Cheryl, who I don't see often, says, as a mother who did have a baby out of wedlock, who's an amazing person and blessing, yes, others could have helped me see my actual worth instead of what I did wrong. Brian.
See? That's what I'm talking about.
And sometimes, I heard a pastor one time say, the people I've seen who are the most judgmental are the ones who are like, who know the most about the Bible. We can be so passionate about righteousness and about sin that we create that. We forget to tell people who they are in the eyes of the Lord, about grace and about their worth, because we're so stuck on what the Bible says, and making sure we point out people's sin and create what Cheryl has or what she experienced.
Yeah, great stuff.
Janet, we don't need that today. So we'll skip that.
So you skipped the nice stuff on me. Carlton was
Oh my
like
gosh.
loving the cut, but you're like, he likes your haircut.
Oh gosh, you guys, that's awesome. You guys have his back. What's up, Tina? Aaron on YouTube. Follow, subscribe. Rachel's laughing at you.
Facebook.
I heard doesn't like you when you say share.
They don't like it. That's why we said it at the end.
They listen? What?
They listen to you. Ask Len about that. So click share. Family, you have a great weekend. And I'm planning on doing a whole lot of nothing.
He's going to take a nap. My sister laughs at him for that. You don't need to be taking a nap. You need to be helping Sarah.
I'd love to have your sister come in here every morning when I show up for a week and see if she takes a nap.
Oh my goodness, that's hilarious.
Giselle needs to stop talking junk. You can go, and when you get home today, go to the end of this video so she can watch this, and I'll say, Giselle, it's time for you to stop talking so much junk.
Oh, wow.
Why don't you bring yourself in here every day? Get up at 4 a.m. for a week, come in here, and you tell me you don't need a nap, Giselle.
Wow, you talk a lot of junk. What if she could beat